we're back at the World Series for another $1,500 event. This time it's just a freeze out, plain old freeze out. If you bust, you're out of there. You cannot re-enter. 25K starting stack, 40-minute levels. Let's get to it. We're kicking things off at the 300, 500 level. I look down at King 10 off in the low jack, raise it up to 1200. Guy from Germany calls in the hijack. Guy on the button calls small blind calls. Guy from England calls in the big blind. There's other people at my table from all around the world. We got a guy from Australia, another guy from Bulgaria. So true representation of a World Series hand right here. So 5 ways, big family pot. We go to the flop of ace 9-9 rainbow. We check it all the way around. The turn is a king of spades, so we turn some showdown value, but again, in a 5-way pot, just gonna check it. Everyone follows suit, and on the river, the 6 of hearts comes down, and everyone checks one more time, so we're feeling good about our hand. I flip it over, guy in the hijack also has a king, and we chop it up between the two of us. All right, this next one, small blind limps. He is another German pro, a high roller named Stefan. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that last name. And I have 10-3 offsuit, so you can mix whether you want to raise this sometimes because it's a complete garbage hand, obviously. So sometimes you're just gonna wanna raise it, try to take it down. And this guy's only got like $10 million in earnings, so obviously I'm gonna make this pot bigger. I raised to 1,700. He's not going anywhere though. He makes the call for 1,200 more. The only thing I have going for me is I'm in position versus this guy. Flop comes out 8-6 deuce, 2 spades and a club. When he checks it to me, I'm considering just waving the white flag right here, but instead I lean towards c-betting because, well, we made it this far. Might as well try one more time. So I throw out a 1,300 chip c-bet. He makes the call. Plan is not going well so far. On the turn, the 9 of spades comes down. So when he checks it to me, definitely feel like I need to give up on this turn. It completes a lot of things that he would have check called with on the flop if he didn't already have a pair, trying to slow down a bit and just count my losses. So I check this one back. The river, however, is the 7 of clubs, giving me a 10 high straight. Ooh, tricky. He's very deliberate about what size he chooses before he finally lands on betting 11,000 chips into a pot of 6,500. Almost 2x the pot, but we river straight. This guy is obviously very capable of having bluffs. He could have some 1 spade holdings that didn't get there, or he could be turning a pair that he doesn't think is good anymore into a bluff, stuff like that. So when he goes this large, it's pretty polarizing. I don't think I could fold this one, so I stick in my 11. And we get the bad news. He just has Jack 7 of spades for a turned Jack high flush. Well played, nice hand, sir. Just completely getting owned right away. I'm not sure about that one, actually. I'm gonna have to ask Jesse about that.
We're going. Go, 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 go.
Stefan Schellhabel, or however you say his name.
Schellhabel. Well, he's German, so it's like more angry. Schellhabel.
Folds around to his small blind. He just calls. I raise 10-3 off in the big.
ISO, let's go.
You like it? I mean,
yeah, I do.
I think, do you wave the white flag at this point, or do you c-bet?
I like c-betting here, I think.
Do you like c-betting?
I think you get to do it a lot as like the raiser, and this actually isn't like the worst board for you. You have like all the overpairs and he doesn't. You have, if you're like pretty polar, then you actually hit this board like a good bit with your bluffs. He has hands obviously that hit this board, but he has a lot of like middling hands too that don't hit this board, like Jack 10 off and Queen 10 off and Queen Jack off or whatever. So I think it's kind of just an unfortunate river, and against him I'd probably call because he finds a lot of bluffs. Like it's not that hard to just have like King 6 off, or yeah, like King 6 off with the King of spades, stuff like that, or even just like turn like a non-spade 1-pair hand into a bluff. Sometimes you might not do that, but against like most people, I'd probably just reverse blind. You could have like a whiff or something like that.
So now the blinds have gone up. We're on the short stack and we pick up pocket 10s under the gun. Raise it up to 1,200. Unfortunately, we don't get any action, so we just take that one down. But no worries, because the very next hand we pick up pocket 10s again. This time the cutoff opens. Now that I'm in the big blind, I have sub 20 big blinds myself, so I rip it all in. He doesn't snap call, but eventually he does put the chips in, and we see that we have ourselves a flip. He has King Jack of spades. The The flop is ace 9-7, looking good so far. The turn is the 10 of spades. The craziest turn card in the deck. You can hit any 8, any queen, any spade. Well, not any spade because I could make a boat, but you get the idea. But the dealer puts out another 10, giving me quads to secure the double up. Okay, so now we're back in the mix, almost back to full starting stack and feeling much better. The low jack opens this one. He's the guy from England, but I think you've heard him speaking Russian to the other guy, so I'm not sure. Anyway, he opens to 1300 from the low jack. I peel ace 10 off from the small blind and we take the flop heads up. Comes down ace king 6 rainbow. Check out over to him. He c-bets pretty tiny, bets 1100 on this flop. Obviously, I'm going to make the call, so I toss in the chips. The turn is another 6, bringing a backdoor flush draw. Check it over to him. This time he goes on the larger side. He goes 4,200 into 6K. Again, not going anywhere, especially when I think he would continue with a lot of his ace-X now that it mostly chops with mine, and he could be barreling backdoor flush draws and some other combo draws like queen jack, queen 10, etc. So I make the call. The river is a 4 of diamonds, complete brick. And when I check it over to him, he puts me to the ultimate test by jamming it all in so that I would have to call my remaining 16K. This is a little bit of an overbet. I'm basically calling to hope that I chop with him, which is never a good feeling in poker. He's the only one that can have aces, ace king, and pocket kings because I didn't 3-bet pre-flop. So he is representing all those strong hands and knows that I cannot have those hands. So that really stinks to be in that position. Eventually, I land on a fold. I don't want to call, be wrong, or call and just to chop it occasionally. So I'm not sure about that one actually, but didn't feel very good in the moment. After that, we get a couple of cheeky raises and small c-bets through, and then it's time for break and to regroup. All right, now that we've got a little bit of a stretch in and we're feeling refocused, I open queen jack of clubs from the low jack to 1600 at 800 big blind. Big blind comes along. He's a good pro from Bulgaria. He's also grinding away on his iPad, and I played with him in the 6 max event that I had so much fun in. So happy to play a pot with him. The flop comes down king 8-6 with 1 club, and with a lot of backdoor draw opportunities that I could barrel on, I decide to c-bet this one. So I go for a pretty standard size of about 1500, and he makes the call. The turn is a 9 of diamonds, and this one my Bulgarian friend decides to lead. He only bets 2300 though, so about a third of the pot. With queen high, I just turned a gutter. I'm not sure what he's doing this with, but with just a gutter on the turn, I decide to let it go and try to find a better spot. And I immediately pick up pocket jacks, very next hand. So I open it up again to 1600. I have less than 15 big blinds. So the big blind is also short. I am hoping to get it in with him if he has something good. He's the guy from Australia. He makes the call for 800 more. The flop is a perfect 10-6 deuce rainbow flop. Definitely stand to have the best hand here. And if he has a 10, I'm just doing cartwheels in my head. Anyway, I bet 1300 on this flop. He makes the call, and the turn comes out as 7 of spades. He checks to me, and again, I'm going to keep going for value, try to get it all in by the river. I make it 3,500, which is about half pot, and he makes the call. The river is the deuce of clubs, so great run out, dream scenario. He checks it to me. I only have 5,200 left, which is almost a little bit over a third of the pot, and so I jam it all in. He tanks for a little bit, eventually lands on a fold. And as I'm scooping in the pot, I'm thinking, uh-oh, I think I made a mistake actually. If I had bet slightly bigger on the flop, I would have set up a perfect, almost pot-sized jam on the turn. I don't know if that's results-oriented of me. Whenever you lose a pot, you're always kicking yourself to see if you could have gotten more value. And this was one of those times I thought, if I had just sized up a tiny bit more on the flop, I could have maybe just jammed turn and gotten a call. But the other end of the spectrum, maybe he had something like 6-8 or something that picked up equity on the turn, and because it was only half pot and because it was such a tiny bet on the flop, he hung around a little more than he would have. You never know, but that was kind of where my brain went right after. One orbit later, I'm still trying to maneuver on this short-ish stack. I'm sub 20 big blinds under the gun, and I open it up to 2,000 with ace-8 of spades. Stefan is in the big blind. He's not going anywhere for a min raise in a huge chip stack, so he makes the call. Heads up, the dealer puts out ace-6 for rainbow. So I flop top pair. I'm going to see bet this board a lot against the big blind anyway, so I do the same in this scenario. I bet 1,500. Stefan doesn't go anywhere. He makes the call. I do notice that he takes a little while before landing on a call though, so I'm just keeping that in mind. The turn is the jack of spades. So when he checks it over to me, I try to employ some pot control, and I'm not really scared of any draws really. I think he would have check raised some gutters and stuff on the flop potentially, so I'm gonna check this one back and then call a lot of rivers. But the river is the 8 of diamonds. So we river essentially what is top two. You know, he could have ace jack, but it's highly unlikely. So when he leads out for 6K and 8,500, I am trying to think, should I go for value, just jam the rest of my chip stack in? I only have 16K to start this street, so 10K more on top of his bet. You know, obviously ace jack I'm losing to, but let's say an 8-6, 8-4. I mean, he's peeling all kinds of stuff in the big blind. So if he rivered or flopped even a worse two pair, I think that's just enough hands I really have to go for it for value. So that's what I did. I landed on jamming it all in for 16,200. He almost beats me into the pot and whips over.
No. Terrible. Nice hand. Yeah. Nice hand. Good luck, you guys.
The freaking nuts. He has 7-5 offsuit. He flopped an open ender and rivered the straight. Just the disaster river card for me, because gave me two pair, gave him a straight, pretty much a cooler in my book. And just like that, I'm out of another World Series tournament.